The 2025 NFL draft is completely loaded on the defensive side of the ball. If we go through each and every position, the top five, probably three of those guys would have been in the top five of last year's class. The edge rushers are no different. This is an absolutely loaded edge class that I'm a really, really big fan of. And today we're going to be talking about my top 20 edge rushers entering the 2025 NFL draft. So if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Really helps me out, lets me know you guys are enjoying the videos. We've already done my quarterback and my running back ranking, so stay tuned or go back and check those out if you haven't already. And we are going to be doing these every week leading up to the college football season. On top of that, be sure to check out my Patreon. That's going to be linked down below in the description. For $5 a month, you guys get exclusive access to my draft guide, my evals, one of the best, most comprehensive draft guides on the market. I highly recommend it if you are interested in getting deeper into this NFL draft. On top of that, we've got exclusive prospect interviews with multiple really fun players over there. So be sure to go check that one out. We're uploading stuff to there pretty regularly. So if you guys do enjoy my content, the mock draft guys content, be sure to go check that out. But let's take a look at these edge rushers. Now, this is a really, really good edge class. There's going to be some guys that ultimately were left off that I think are going to upset a few people, but this is my list based on what I saw in the film that I watched. We're going to get into it, and we're going to start off with Shamar Turner. Now, this is a guy that I think some people have talked about potentially playing on the inside. He does have some really good size to play on the inside. I believe he's around 290, but just a massive defender. He is going to play off the edge for them. He's got a ton of power, is a very strong player who plays with a lot of power, as I mentioned. He also moves really well for his size. I was pretty impressed with his quickness, his first step, and just how in control of his movements he looked. Now, at times it looked like he was out of control and would just overextend in the run game, but I did think that he moved well for his size. He also did a good job in run defense, which is important as an edge rusher. You got to be able to set the edge. I thought Shamar Turner did do that pretty well. He's not the quickest, not the fastest player in the world. He's got to work on his pass rush moves, add some more tools to his toolbox. He's a little bit too reliant on his power at times, but I think he could be a riser. I think A&M is going to be competitive. There's another Texas A&M rusher coming later on in this video. I like Shamar Turner, though. He is the first guy to kick off this list. At number 19, we've got Jordan Burch from Oregon. I was very impressed with Jordan Burch. I went and watched the Oregon State game. He was lined up against Talise Fuaga for quite a bit of this game. My God, this guy was impossible to stop in that game. I think he really needs to work on his hands. His hands just get super stiff, doesn't really know how to leverage himself into a nice pass rush. He's not the most explosive athlete in the world, but this is a guy who's got one of the nastiest bull rushes I've seen in this entire class. I believe he's around 6'5", 290 as well. Very similar size to Shamar Turner. He's very good against the run. That Oregon State game, if you guys haven't seen that game from Burch, go watch it. He was everywhere in that game. He was splitting defenders, getting in the backfield to stop the run. He was winning with power against Talise Fuaga. If he can improve his hands, add some more pass rush moves, and not rely so much on that bull rush, I could see him being in the top 10 by the end of this year, because I think the tools that he showed in terms of his strength, his ability to defend against the run, were some of the best I saw in this class. He's got to work on some of the technical aspects, but I really, really like Jordan Burch, and he's at number 19 for me. At number 18, it's RJ Oben. Oben was really, really good. Transferring from Duke to Notre Dame, I was pretty impressed by some of the stuff I saw RJ Oben doing. He's got really good size. He's a very quick athlete. He's got a quick first step. He's got an elite bend around the edge. But what I liked most about him, his hands were really, really impressive. He set up pass rush moves beautifully. He did some things. There was one play, I believe it was against Clemson. The first game, he was lined up against the left tackle, and he did everything you wanted to see. He extended, he did the long arm, he faked spin one way, spun back inside. He just set up the offensive tackle really, really well, and he was able to get to the quarterback. He's a good athlete who's got some really good movement skills. He's a good pass rusher. His hand placement can be a bit inconsistent. It's up and down in terms of that. Where I really felt like he needed to improve was as a run defender. It just seemed like he got lost at times in run defense. He played out of control, off balance in run defense, lunged at times. I don't want to see that. And he's also a bit older in terms of some of these prospects in this class. I believe he's going to be close to 24. So you don't love that. There's not a ton of youth there, but RJ Oben is a fantastic edge rusher. He is going to be a really good pass rusher. And on that Notre Dame defensive line, I'm going to be very curious to see how he plays because he's got all the tools to really develop and push himself into the top 2 or 3 rounds, in my opinion. At number 17, we've got Jasheen Davis rocking the Wake Forest shirt right now. Jasheen Davis was a guy who I thought was going to come out last year, and I think he should have come out last year, but there's a lot to really like about him. While he's got a quick first step, he's not the fastest guy, but that first step is elite. He's got really good quickness off the line of scrimmage. And there's a guy who showed an array of pass rush moves. He showed a spin. He showed a swim. He showed a bull rush. He plays low to the ground. He's able to generate that power from his lower body, which I really like. He's got good bend. As a pass rusher, there's a lot to like there, but it just seemed like he would get in the backfield and he was never able to finish the plays. Ever. There were so many missed opportunities, missed tackles, missed sacks that he had. While the guy's able to create a lot of pressure, I don't know that he's going to be that guy that's going to be a major sack artist. On top of that, I didn't love his movement. He felt a little bit clunky, just felt heavy on his feet at times. So I'd like to see him be a little bit more smooth as an athlete. I don't really know how high I could see him going. I think this is probably the range for him, but he shows a lot of really good tools as a pass rusher in terms of his moves, in terms of his ability to generate strength from his lower body, his bend. So I do like Jasheen Davis quite a bit. I think he's going to be a really good player, but I'd probably have him in that 4th, 5th round range at the moment. But I like what he showed. I think he's going to be a solid player once again for Wake Forest. At number 16, we got Trey Moore from Texas. And this is a guy that I think is going to be a little bit lower for me than on a lot of people's lists. He won the Defensive Player of the Year in the American Conference last year. He was fantastic. He's a versatile athlete. They played him outside linebacker. They played him as the 4-3 edge, who is a tremendous athlete. I mean, Trey Moore was one of the best athletes in this class. He's got quickness. He's got power. There's a lot to like there. His speed is really, really good. He showed off one of the nastiest spin moves I've seen of any edge rusher in this entire draft class, but he's undersized. He's a 6 foot. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He looked really small out there. He looked like a linebacker to me, truthfully. I don't really know where Texas is planning to play him. He was also graded as one of the worst run defenders in all of college football. It was a rough watch trying to watch him defend the run. He just got lost, was taken out of plays way too many times. That's a big part of the game, and I just didn't see it from him. And his hand placement was inconsistent as well. He just felt like he didn't really know how to leverage his hand and create pressure on a consistent basis. It seemed like a lot of his pressures were off design blitzes or stunts. But Trey Moore is going to Texas from UTSA. I think he's got a lot of upside. This is a guy that people think could be in first round consideration if he has another really good year. And I could see it due to his athleticism, but due to his horrible run defense, his size, I've got some concerns there with Trey Moore. That's why he's at number 16. At number 15, we got Gabe Jacas out of Illinois. This is a guy that I think has a lot of tools, but he's very, very raw. He's got fantastic size, and he's very fluid. He showed some really good bend. Didn't really look like out of place. He was a smooth mover who is one of the best run defenders in this class. I was really impressed at just how well he was able to set the edge. He's a good mover, as I mentioned. He's got a lot there athletically that you're like, okay, this guy could be a really good player. However, there are some concerns I have. He plays with high pads. Seems like he's almost vertical a lot of times when he's entering his rush, which does lead to some concerns in terms of his balance. There were too many times where it felt like he was pushed off balance because he isn't generating that power from his lower body. He's not creating that anchor. He's also really raw as a pass rusher. The athletic upside's there, but we haven't really seen him be a consistent pass rusher. He doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves. While he's got bend, I think he could be a nice pressure guy. I'd like to see him develop some moves, but if he can do that, this could be a top 5 edge rusher in this class. I think this guy is fantastic. He does a lot of things really, really well for Illinois. And Illinois is a team that always has a really good defensive player. Go back to Devon Witherspoon 2 years ago, Jerzon Newton this year. I think Gabe Jacobs is going to be that guy for the Fighting Illini this year. And number 14, I'm sorry, Michigan fans. I know this is a little bit low. It's Josiah Stewart. He's a really good athlete. There's a lot to really like about him. And we'll just get into the negatives with him. I think this edge class is so good. I think I have a 3rd round grade on Josiah Stewart. Every other player ahead of him is either a 3rd round or a 2nd round player. This is not a knock on Josiah Stewart because he's a very good athlete who was powerful, had good bend, was a hard hitter, and he also was able to drop back into coverage. I thought he did a good job when asked to go back into coverage, but he could create pressure at times. He could collapse the pocket, but he really struggled to disengage with blockers, and that was really my big issue with him and why he's a little bit lower. If he can work on that, is another guy who's going to easily find himself in the top 10 because I think the upside's there. He also had some balance issues where he just would look out of control, end up on the ground. Don't really want to see that. He's going to get more opportunities this year at Michigan, though, with all the players they lost to the draft. I think he's going to be in for a big year. This is just where he's at in the preseason. I expect big things from him this upcoming season to jump himself up. But as of right now, I've got him at number 14. I'd like to see him improve his hands, disengage as a blocker, or disengage with blockers. And those are really my big concerns with him. And number 13, don't think Ohio State's getting off easy here because I know everyone really likes Jack Sawyer. I get it. Not a guy that I'm really a big fan of. Going back to last year, I watched him last summer, and I was like, I don't really see it. Even in a weaker edge class in 2023, didn't really see it. But he's a guy that ends up here at number 13. I think he's a 2nd or 3rd round guy. He's got really good initial burst. It is a very good run defender. I think he's that prototypical 4-3 edge who's going to set the edge well in the run defense. He's quick at pursuit, has some good chase down speed as well, and he plays hard every play. He's got good strength. He plays with a high motor. Yes, I'm using the cliche first guy in, last guy to leave, sneaky athletic. Yeah, that's Jack Sawyer. But he feels like he has a lot of room to grow. He lacks bend as a pass rusher, lacks pass rush moves. I think he needs to improve in terms of his hand usage, and he still feels like he needs to grow into his body. He's got the frame to really grow. We just haven't seen that yet. I think Sawyer can be a good edge rusher, but I think he's a little bit overhyped at this point. I don't really see him as a 1st round guy. I think I've got a 2nd to 3rd round grade, as I mentioned earlier. While there's potential there to be a good player, I got him at number 13 right now. There's too many concerns with him as a pass rusher and even in his size that I'd like to see him work on this season for Ohio State. At number 12, we've got BJ Green out of Colorado. Just uploaded a video on Colorado just a couple days ago. I think this is a guy who's really good with his hands. He knows how to leverage himself, how to win with his first step. This is a guy that has a lethal first step, and if he's able to get that space, he's going to get into the backfield. He's been everywhere for Arizona State over the last few seasons in terms of being in the backfield, creating pressure. While he only has, I believe, 9 sacks over the last 2 years, I believe he's got over 40 pressures. So he's been very productive for Arizona State. Not the greatest run defender in the world, has shorter arms, and he's also a bit undersized as well. I believe he's 6 foot even. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but I think he's a guy that is able to win because he has some really good pass rush upside, which is why I gave him the edge over Jack Sawyer. I prioritize pass rush over run defense. He doesn't quite have the run defense of Jack Sawyer, so I'd like to see that improve. But as a pass rusher, the production's there. The athleticism is there. I think he also gives you a little bit of versatility. He's going to be really, really good for Colorado this year. I really do think so. I've got him at number 12. At number 11, we've got Tyler Barron out of Miami. Now, this is a story as a Tennessee fan, just drove me crazy. He left Tennessee, committed to Ole Miss, decommitted from Ole Miss, went to Louisville, decommitted from Louisville. Now he's at Miami, all in one offseason. So that might be a concern because the guy can't stay loyal, can't figure out what he wants. He's a freak athlete, though. This guy, I watched him last summer as well. Absolute freak athlete that just his quickness is off the charts. He's got really, really good power he's able to play with, which is something that's a bit surprising because when you look at him, he's a bit slim. He needs to add on muscle, but the guy is super powerful and he's just able to bull rush guys left and right, but he's still lacking pass rush moves. If he's not able to win with power, there's really not much he's going to do there. I love his athleticism. I love his size. He's got great arm length. He's got a lot to really love. Miami's defense is going to be really, really good this year. I think Tyler Barron can be a big part of that. I've got him at number 11. I know a lot of people are going to have him a little bit higher. I think this is a fair range for Tyler Barron entering this year. We're entering the top 10 now. And like I said, this draft class is absolutely loaded. At number 10, we got JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. A guy that I compared to Brandon Graham. He's got incredible burst. He's a very powerful player. And he also showed some good versatility. They had him drop back into coverage at times. He's a fluid athlete, a really good mover. Go back and watch the Penn State game a couple years ago. That was the game that put him on the map. Consistency, though. He's one of the most inconsistent players in college football. The upside is there. He's got the power. He's got some pass rush moves that he shows from time to time, but he's never really able to piece everything together. I think he also needs to improve as a run defender as well. Didn't really see a ton of upside there, and he struggled against bigger, more powerful blockers. So if he can improve on those areas, yeah, he's going to be a first-round pick, but we've yet to see it. I've got a second-round grade on him because I think the athleticism is there. All the tools are there to work out. Let's see if he can piece it together this year at Ohio State. Tuimoloau's at 10. At number 9, we've got Patrick Payton out of Florida State. Man, this guy was really, really fun to watch because he's so quick. If you look down for a second, you're going to miss him because he's just flying around in that Florida State defense. I believe he had a ton of sacks last year. Playing off Jared Verse in that defensive line. He's a really good run defender, and he wins with his quickness and his speed, but he also showed a really nice rip-through move that I was really impressed with. However, I think his bend is a little bit questionable. He's a bit slim. I believe he's around 235, so I'd like to see him add on some weight, but his pressures came off blitzes. It felt like he couldn't consistently win with his hands, and if you look at his sacks, a good amount of them came off of blitzes. As a design blitzer, he was just able to get into the backfield, wasn't touched by a blocker. I'd like to see him improve, see those numbers go up as the number 1 guy now at Florida State. I love his athleticism, though. I love his quickness. I love what he can be. He's good against the run. I've got him at number 9. I think he's going to be a big riser this college football season. At number 8, we've got Landon Jackson from Arkansas. He might be the most freakish athlete I think I can remember seeing. 6'5", 290, can play on the inside, can play outside as an edge rusher. He's got elite bend. He's a good run defender, and he's an extremely powerful edge rusher as well. There's a lot to really like about him. The size alone puts him in this top 15 for me because you don't see guys like this come along very often, and you love it. However, he's not the greatest athlete in the world. He didn't have a lot of speed, quickness off the edge to really consistently win. He also played with high pads, and while he is able to generate some really good power, I think he could be even more powerful if he plays lower. So there's a lot to like about Landon Jackson. He's been productive at Arkansas. He's a good run defender. Maybe could improve a little bit as a pass rusher, but I think he's a solid player that I've got at number 8. I like what he's going to be able to bring to the table, and he's my number 8 edge rusher. At number 7, we've got Kyman Rucker out of North Carolina. This is a guy that I was absolutely blown away with, and he's at number 7. That's how good this class is. I would consider taking Rucker in the first round. He's a very powerful player who had some of the best hand usage of anyone in this class. there were a couple of moves where I was like, oh my gosh. We talked about it with RJ Oben, the way he was able to set up offensive linemen to get into his pass rush move. Kyman Rucker did that at an even more elite level. He's very good in pursuit of the quarterback. He's hit extremely hard. He's inconsistent as a run defender, which is why he's a little bit lower. He showed some upside, but there wasn't a lot there. And off the edge, I'd like to see him work on his bend. He's also not the most amazing athlete. He wins with power and he wins with the pass rush moves. But if he could win with quickness in his game, you could argue he's a top 3 edge rusher in this class because I think the pass rush moves are that good with him. He's at number 7 for me, though. I think every one of these next few guys I would consider taking in the first round. Kyman Rucker is no different. At number 6, we got Ashton Gelati out of Louisville. Man, I did a video on this guy last year, and I was a little bit lower on him at the time. But as time has gone on, man, this guy is really, really fun. He's got size and versatility. I think he could be a 4-3 edge, 3-4 defensive end. You really like that. I believe he's around 290 as well. He's a very strong, very powerful player who had surprisingly good athleticism. You don't really expect that, but this guy had good speed. He was able to split defenders, get into the backfield, and was very productive. One of PFF's highest graded edge rushers last season for Louisville. Really, it comes into his pass rush moves. He wins a lot with his power, but if he's not winning with his power, he doesn't really have the greatest hand placement. His change of direction was very suspect at times, and his bend as well was not awesome. That's why I think he's going to translate better as a 3-4 defensive end. But all the tools are there. I love what this guy is going to be able to bring to the table. Returns to Louisville, a guy that's probably going to end up being a first-round pick. He's really, really talented. A little bit lower on him just due to the change of direction, the bend. Those are important things to me. But he's good against the run. He's a good pass rusher, and I got him at number 6. Him and Kyman Rucker are very close for different reasons. I lean Gelati just simply due to the size. Entering the top 5 now, we've got Michael Williams out of Georgia. This is going to upset some people. I get it. This guy's going to be probably one of the first 2 or 3 edge rushers taken off the board. The guy is one of the most incredible athletes that I've seen off the edge. He's got incredible size, I believe 6'3", 245. He's a very good athlete. He's got upside as a run defender. And he showed the ability to get skinny between the tackles, and he showed some good rip-through moves as well that I was really impressed with. But he got stonewalled so many times. He'd be in that pass rush, he'd get met with an offensive lineman, and it's like he just got stunned. It's like it's kind of like in Mario when you hit the Goomba and you lose your guy and you're like, you go blurry for a second. That's kind of what it feels like with Michael Williams. He's got to develop more as a pass rusher and in pass rush moves. He's so reliant on his tools, his athleticism, which I get it. He's that athletic. He's Trayvon Walker 2.0 to me because he's a really good athlete that's really good at the run. He's got upside, and he's shown some tools. Can he piece everything together? That's really what I think this year is going to be about, because if he can, he might be the best edge rusher in this class. But he hasn't done it yet. He's at number 5 just because I think there's a little bit more technically sound players that are right ahead of him. And number 4, we've got Nick Scourton out of Texas A&M. Him and my number 3 guy, I think, are literally neck and neck for me. Scourton's a freak. I mean, this guy is an absolute freak athlete. Nobody should be able to move how he moves at 280. He comes from Purdue, where he was absolutely fantastic for the Boilermakers, by the way. He's a good tackler who also dropped back into coverage. So, I mean, right off the bat, this guy is elite. He's got one of the nastiest spin moves that I saw on any of my tape watching, and he's quick. Now, he gets too reliant on his power. Would like to see him go to that spin move, go to some of those pass rush moves a little bit more regularly. He also played a bit off balance at times. So I'd like to see that improve for him as well. But he's a very good edge rusher. He's going to be probably a top 15 pick to me. I think all 4 of these guys are going to be in the top 15. I think this class is loaded. Scourton is that guy. In the SEC, he probably is going to boost the stock even, but I've got him at number 4. At number 3, we've got Princely Umanmielen out of Ole Miss. Transfer from Florida. Man, a guy that I liked quite a bit last year. Thought he was a second-round guy. I think in this class, with another year to improve, he comes in at number 3. He's got tremendous size. He's 6'5", 265. He's got some of the best bend of any edge rusher in this class. He's also got a really good spin move. The length is there. He's got long arms. He's got quickness and versatility off the edge. Could play almost anywhere on the defensive line, and I think he would be really, really good. I think I was a little bit low on him last year, to be completely honest. This guy could have gone in the first round, I think, due to just all the things he does as an athlete. I mean, he moves incredibly well for his size. We've got to improve his hands and his moves as a pass rusher. The upside's there. He's too reliant on his bend and his quickness to get into the backfield. And he was kind of a rotational player at Florida, which is a common trend with these Florida guys. We talked about it with Trevor Etienne in the running backs video. Why aren't you playing your best players? Princely Umanmielen should be on the field, and he was just using a rotational role. At Ole Miss, I think he is going to absolutely dominate competition. I think he's going to end up being a very, very good player. He's at number 3 for me. At number 2, it's Abdul Carter. I know he's converting from linebacker. So there's a lot of questions there. So I'm kind of just basing this off of what I saw as a pass rusher and as a run defender from Abdul Carter last year when he was kind of blitzing. And he's one of the best athletes in this class. I mean, he moved incredibly well. That's why he's got the sticks at Penn State. He's the leader of this defense. He's got powerful hands. And he showed quite a few pass rush moves when he did get met with blockers. He showed a spin. He showed a swim. He had some missed tackles from time to time in the run game. He overextended. This is more a projection of where I think he's going to end up because I think the upside is there. I don't think he's Micah Parsons. I don't think he's that guy, but I think everything he does as a pass rusher is very impressive, and I think he's going to be a really, really impressive player this year. But my number 1 guy, come on, I'm a Tennessee fan, and I don't think this is me being biased. I think James Pierce is on a Will Anderson Jr. tier of one of the best edge rushers I've ever seen coming out of the collegiate level. His first step is virtually impossible to defend against. You watch it, J.C. Latham, he struggled against. It seemed like every other offensive lineman he went up against, nobody could stop him. His hands are really good. He's got elite bend, and he's able to immediately get that pushover move, get that hand behind the defender, and he's got the quickness to win. He's powerful. He wins with both speed and power. He's a good run defender. Now, he's a little bit undersized. I think he needs a little bit more refinement against the run. He does overextend at times, does kind of get met with resistance when it's a bigger blocker. James Pierce is the number 1 pick to me. I think he's the best player in this draft class. I'm absolutely blown away every time I turn on tape. I watched the Georgia game. He's everywhere in that game. You watch the Alabama game. He's everywhere. I mean, this guy is elite at every single level. He's one of the best athletes off the edge. I said Abdul Carter's not Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is my comparison for James Pierce Jr. in terms of his versatility, size, quickness. I think James Pierce Jr. has it all. He's my number 1 edge rusher in the 2025 draft class so far. But if you guys do enjoy these videos, leave a like. Let me know who your top edge rushers are in this class. Tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment on which position group you guys think I'm going to do next. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.